Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Blast at a madrasa near Dhaka injures 4, including 2 children, as Bangladesh crisis deepens. Women leaders of the National Citizen Party opposed reported alliance with the Jamaat Islami. Russia lashes out at Zelensky ahead of the new Trump talks on Ukraine plan. Says Ukraine seeking to torpedo talks on US plan. Israel becomes the first country to recognize Somaliland as a sovereign state. And England stun Australia to win the 4th Ashes Test at the MCG. England win a test on Australian soil for the first time in 15 years. As Bangladesh moves closer to the February 2026 elections, the country is facing growing concerns over rising extremism and the safety of religious minorities. Political uncertainty has deepened following the change in government, with incidents of mob violence and attacks on cultural institutions on the rise. Even new political formations are divided over alliances with Islamist groups.
Scheduled for February 12, 2026, Bangladesh is witnessing a worrying rise in extremism, raising serious concerns over the safety of Hindus and other minorities. Since the fall of the Awami League government in August 2024, religious fundamentalism has increased across the country. On Saturday, more than 30 female leaders of the newly formed National Citizen Party voiced concern over rising extremism in the country and protested against NCP's possible alliance with Jamaat-e-Islami. They said that such an alliance would undermine the spirit of the 1971 Liberation War and democratic values. BNP acting chairman Tariq Rahman recently returned to Bangladesh, promising safety for all communities. However, continued mob violence against minorities tells a different story. Analysts warn that election held without inclusive participation, especially with the Awami League barred, risk lacking democratic legitimacy.
International community must maintain that there should be an inclusive, because without inclusivity, there is no democracy, frankly. So all sections of the people or the electorate must be able to present their views and cast their votes, and then only you can call the elections free and fair. So let us hope that the Bangladeshi Election Commission and the government take a holistic view of the situation, and the international community is vigilant.
Attacks on religious minorities and secular institutions have surged, including mob lynchings, desecration of graves, and threats forcing the cancellation of women's sports and cultural events. Extremist groups are increasingly using social media to spread propaganda and recruit youth. The brutal lynching of Deepu Das has deeply shaken minority communities across the country.
Everybody knows it is not only Bangladesh, all over the world, the recent scenario in Bangladesh, particularly a lot of mishaps in the national level, as you have seen the damage in the frontline news media office, brutal killing of Deepu Chandra Das, and there are a lot of things in Kumilla, Kurigram, and all over the country. Security situation in the country is highly dismal.
On Friday night, a concert by veteran rock musician James was cancelled in Faridpur after clashes left at least 25 people injured. And this is not an isolated case. In recent weeks, several cultural organizations have faced the ire of Islamic fundamentalists in Bangladesh. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
And DD India correspondent Naval Singh Parmar now joins us from Dhaka over the phone line. Naval Singh, one development that took place today was the women leaders. 30 women leaders have reportedly signed a dissent note protesting the reported alliance or reports of alliance between the Jamaat and the NCP, saying that this undermines the democratic values. So chinks within the NCP are emerging, and that makes the political landscape all the more complex in Bangladesh.
Well, yes, you are right. Actually, NCP, the National Citizen Party, is a part. It is an organization of a student who led the protest march against the Sheikh Hasina quota movement in July-August 2024, and then after they formed the political party. And since the beginning of the movement, Jamaat-e-Islami was a backup to the student organization, and then after the movement and fall of the Sheikh Hasina, the Jamaat-e-Islami and their newly formed political party NCP was hand in hand, and on many occasions their student leader or NCP leader openly wrote on their social media walls regarding the violence. They are instigating the violence. There are many evidence that the student leader or NCP leaders, Hasnat Abdullah and Sarji Salam, they instigated crowd to demolish the Sheikh Mujib Memorial in Dhaka, Dhanmundi 32, all these things. So NCP was totally in collision with the Jamaat-e-Islami. But after the arrival of Tariq Rahman in Bangladesh and the resurgence of BNP, there is a section of leaders in the NCP. They feel that their future is not with the Jamaat-e-Islami, and at the same time, in last 1.5 years, the Jamaat-e-Islami took and their sponsored group like Tawhidi Janta. They cancelled many football matches of women. They cancelled many concerts. They cancelled many. They attacked many cultural organizations, even Baul festival, Baul music, or even attacks on minority media. So now the liberal forces and the civil society in Bangladesh believes that if the Jamaat-e-Islami will be powerful and will be in power, then there will be a crisis for the liberal forces, minority, women, media, everywhere. So the NCP feels that the leaders, section of people in NCP have a feeling that their future is not with the Jamaat-e-Islami. So that's why. And some women leader, they represent the 50% population of this country. So they feel that if the Jamaat will come to the power, then they will restrict the working space, public space for the women. Even already the get-up and attire has been changed in Bangladesh in last 1.5 years, and there will be more restriction on women. So that is the reason I think that the NCP's some of the leaders are in view that if they will go with the Jamaat, then they will be at the receiving end. So some of the NCP leaders are now trying to contest election independently. There was a talk between NCP and BNP, but it was somehow not materialized. And then some of the NCP leaders tilt toward the Jamaat-e-Islami. But now there is a rift in NCP. What will happen? Some of them have already resigned from the NCP. So student party, what will be the future of student party? That time will tell.
But that makes the political landscape very interesting now, given that it's become a multi-cornered contest really, and we don't know yet, the Awami League is out of the scene, out of the election scene, but where would the supporters of the Awami League vote? Naval Singh, we'll leave it there. Many thanks for joining us and giving us, the update from Dhaka. And Russia has carried out powerful overnight assault on Ukraine's capital Kyiv, launching waves of drones and missiles that killed at least one person, injuring dozens. The attack comes at a critical diplomatic moment as Ukraine's president prepares for talks with the US president amid renewed efforts to end the war. Here's more in this report.
Russia has launched a major overnight assault on Ukraine's capital Kyiv, firing drones and missiles that killed at least one woman, injured dozens, and knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of residents. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attack, accusing Russia of escalating the war, and renewed his call for a stronger international guarantees to protect Ukraine.
Ми дійсно повинні працювати над тим, щоб у нас
Today, Russia showed how it responds to peace talks between Ukraine and the United States aimed at ending Russian war against Ukraine. They launched a massive attack on Ukraine. As we head to peace talks, Russia makes its response clear. The most important thing now is that if we take certain steps, we must secure strong guarantees and ensure our protection.
знаєте, моє відношення, що юридично
Anger spilled onto the street of Kyiv as residents reacted sharply to the Russian attack.
Їм треба, щоб нам не давали.
They want us to be given neither weapons nor money, and they will quietly do what they need to do, just like today. They simply pretend they want peace, but in reality, we all know that they do not want it.
Всі знаємо, вони цього не хочуть.
The strike comes as President Zelensky prepares for high-stakes diplomacy. He is set to meet US President Donald Trump in Florida on Sunday, where Zelensky says he hopes to find common grounds and a peace framework to end Russia's war.
що для нас сьогодні важливе.
The key question is what security guarantees President Trump is prepared to give Ukraine. I understand that legally binding guarantees depend on both President Trump and Congress. We appreciate the team's discussion and the fact that there is a shared vision. However, it will depend on the US President, what he is ready to provide, when he is ready to provide it, and for how long. I would be truly grateful if his decision aligns with our wish.
Більшою кількістю і дронів, і ракет.
Before arriving in the United States, Zelensky will stop in Canada, where he is expected to address European allies via video conference ahead of the talks.
Так, зараз ми в літаку на шляху.
On the way, we will make a stop in Canada. I will have a meeting with Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Together, we plan to speak online with European leaders. We will go through all the issues, provide updates, and exchange details of the documents that I will be discussing with the President of the United States.
Президента Сполучених Штатів.
Meanwhile, Russia has accused Ukraine and its European partners of attempting to derail US-led peace efforts. Moscow rejected the Ukrainian proposal presented this week, calling it fundamentally different from the next previous discussed with Washington. Attention now shifts to diplomacy, with Ukrainian President Zelensky set to meet US President Donald Trump in the coming days. Whether dialogue can gain traction amid escalating violence remains the central question, as the conflict shows no sign of easing on the ground. Bureau Report, DD India.
U.S. military buildup near Venezuela is raising tensions across the Caribbean. The deployment of troops, aircraft and drones has drawn sharp criticism from Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The Caracas has accused Washington of trying to impose colonial-style control. Caribbean leaders are joining the chorus, calling on the U.S. to halt aggressive actions and seek dialogue to resolve differences peacefully. More in this report.
The Caribbean is turning into a pressure point and the world is watching closely. The United States military is flooding the Caribbean with elite forces, aircraft and heavy equipment. On Friday, US Air Force MQ-9 Reaper drones were seen at Rafael Hernandez Airport in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro criticized the United States, saying they are trying to impose a colonial and slave-like control over Venezuela.
It is impossible for sectors of US power to fabricate a virtual reality and impose on Bolivar's Venezuela a model of colonial and slave domination to steal its natural resources. That is impossible because here, there are people settled in the territory, in communities, in universities, in factories, in barracks, and these people have demonstrated sufficient capacity to lead our homeland on a good path, at a good pace, with good judgment.
Trump has accused the South American country of flooding the US with drugs. Meanwhile, Trump's administration has been bombing boats originating in South America that it alleges were carrying drugs. In US strikes have killed more than 100 people. Many nations have condemned the attacks as extrajudicial killings. President of the Commonwealth of Dominica has called on the United States to cease its bullying of Venezuela and seek negotiations to resolve differences.
Our appeal to the US is to let there be discussions. Let us sit at the table instead of having wars, instead of trying to remove governments in power, instead of moving to each other's country because we are smaller than you and you are more equipped than us and bullying us into submission. And so for us in the Caribbean, we are calling on the US to cease that aggression against Venezuela.
Earlier this week, the White House ordered the US military to focus almost exclusively on enforcing a quarantine of Venezuelan oil for at least the next 2 months. Since late August, the US has ramped up military presence in the Caribbean off Venezuela's coast alongside escalating sanctions, blockades, and military threats against the oil-rich South American nation. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come up on DD India Newshour, Myanmar to hold the first round of general elections on Sunday. Hundreds mourn in Syria's Homs after the deadly mosque bombing yesterday. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an immediate ceasefire on Saturday. The two countries said in a joint statement, pledging to end weeks of deadly border clashes. The conflict spread to nearly every border province on both sides, shattering an earlier truce for which Donald Trump had taken credit. The truce applies to all kinds of weapons, including attacks on civilians, civilian objects and infrastructure. In all cases and in all areas, Diptanshu Kashyap brings us this latest report.
Cambodia have agreed to an immediate ceasefire on Saturday, pledging to halt weeks of deadly border fighting that marked the worst clashes between the neighbors in years. The agreement was signed by the defense ministers of both countries in Thailand's Chanthaburi province following 3 days of border talks, triggered by an emergency meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers. The fighting, involving artillery, rocket fire, drones and fighter jets, spread across multiple border provinces, killing dozens and displacing hundreds of thousands on both sides.
After this ceasefire that we will maintain fully for 72 hours, the Thai side will release the 18 Cambodian soldiers who have been in Thai captive for 151 days already. This ceasefire is in accordance to the spirit of Kuala Lumpur Joint Declaration on October 26, 2025. On top of that, the ceasefire today will pave the way for villagers who have been evacuated from home along the border to return and live at their homes, do business and work in the farms.
The ceasefire applies to all types of weapons and includes a freeze on troop movements, with both sides agreeing not to reinforce positions along the frontier. The deal also allows civilians displaced by the fighting to return home and bars the use of force against civilian targets. ASEAN will deploy an observer mechanism to monitor compliance alongside direct coordination between the two militaries to prevent renewed escalation.
At the policy level, there will be direct communication via a hotline between the defense ministers and the commanders-in-chief of both sides. If necessary, senior representatives from both sides will be deployed to the area to jointly resolve any issues.
The clashes stem from a long-running dispute over undemarcated sections of the colonial-era border and ancient temple sites claimed by both countries. While the truce has halted the fighting for now, the underlying territorial issue remains unresolved. Diplomatic efforts are set to continue, with Chinese, Thai and Cambodian foreign ministers scheduled to hold talks on December 28th and 29th in China's Yunnan province, focusing on the Thailand-Cambodia border dispute. Diptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
Talking about Myanmar now, preparations are underway in Myanmar as its military-led administration is set to hold a multi-phased general election, even as a civil war rages across large parts of the country. DD India's Adamya Mishra brings us more.
Myanmar is heading to polls on Sunday amid a deepening civil war and one of Asia's worst humanitarian crises. Voting will be held in 3 phases, covering just 265 of Myanmar's 330 townships. It will be conducted in 102 townships on 28th December, followed by polls in 100 townships on 11th January and in 63 townships on 25th January. Political participation is also limited in Myanmar elections. Only 6 parties are contesting at the national level, while dozens are running in single regions. The vote comes 4 years after the 2021 military coup that ousted an elected government led by Aung San Suu Kyi, triggering widespread conflict across the country. The humanitarian situation is dire. The United Nations says nearly 20 million people need aid. More than 3.6 million have been displaced and at least 6,800 civilians killed since the coup. As Myanmar votes, millions remain trapped between conflict, hunger and uncertainty, casting serious doubts over the credibility of the polls and the country's future. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
Mourners lined the streets of Syrian city of Homs on Saturday as funerals were held for victims killed in a deadly explosion at a mosque belonging to the Alawite minority sect a day earlier. The ultra-conservative Sunni militant group Saraya Ansar al-Sunnah claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement posted on social media. The Supreme Alawite Islamic Council strongly condemned what it described as a systemic campaign of killings, forced displacement and arbitrary detentions and incitement against the Alawite community for more than a year. The council accused authorities in Damascus of bearing responsibility, warning that continued attacks could push the country towards further instability and collapse. Israel has become the first country to formally recognize the self-declared Republic of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state on Friday. The Israeli move triggered reactions in the region. Egypt joined Turkey, Somalia and Djibouti in condemning Israel's recognition of Somaliland as an independent state. The African Union too rejected the recognition of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state.
Israel became the first country to formally recognize the self-declared Republic of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state on Friday.
It's good to talk to you, and before anything else, I want you to know that I'm signing now, as we speak, Israel's official recognition of Somaliland and its right of self-determination.
On the other hand, Somaliland President Abdirahman Mohammed Abdullahi welcomed the Israel's recognition.
After more than 3 decades of peaceful self-governance, constitutional order and democratic practice, Somaliland has received its first formal international recognition as a sovereign and independent state. This development affirms an objective reality that has long existed.
Asked by the New York Post newspaper whether the United States planned to also recognize Somaliland, Trump said no. Trump further asked, does anyone know what Somaliland is, really? However, Israel's move did not go well for Somalia, which rejected any recognition of Somaliland. Condemning Israel's move as an unlawful step, Somalia's government said in a statement. The federal government affirms its determination to pursue all necessary diplomatic, political and legal measures in accordance with international law to defend its sovereignty, unity and internationally recognized borders. Israel's move also triggered reactions in the region. Egypt said Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati held phone calls with his counterparts from Somalia, Turkey and Djibouti to discuss what they described as dangerous developments in the Horn of Africa, following Israel's announcement. Egypt's foreign ministry said that the ministers condemned Israel's recognition of Somaliland. African Union also rejected any recognition of Somaliland. The chairperson of the African Union Commission said in a statement that chairperson of the Commission firmly rejects any initiative or action aimed at recognizing Somaliland as an independent entity, recalling that Somaliland remains an integral part of the Federal Republic of Somalia. Residents in the Somalia capital voiced concern after Israel formally recognized Somaliland as an independent state.
I heard the news that Somaliland has received recognition from Israel, even though it has not obtained full recognition from the world. This is something regrettable, and that today Somali people and Somali territory are seeking recognition from Jews.
In the late 1980s, opposition movements formed across the country to challenge the military regime of Mohammad Siad Barre. In 1991, rebel forces drove Barre out of Mogadishu, plunging southern Somalia into chaos. After Mohammad Siad Barre's fall, Somalia split into regions controlled by militias and groups. In the northwest, the Somali National Movement (SNM) seized control and declared independence as the Republic of Somaliland. Somaliland declared independence in 1991, and Puntland declared partial autonomy in 1998. Somaliland sits on the Gulf of Aden along one of the world's most critical maritime choke points, linking the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
And back home in Rajasthan's Bikaner, a police constable is leading by example, not with a baton but with a helmet. While many riders still ignore basic road safety regulations, this policeman refuses to step out without protection, even when he's on a bicycle, inspiring many others to rethink safety on the road. Here's a report.
We often spot motorcyclists riding without a helmet, risking their lives by ignoring basic safety rules. But in Rajasthan's Bikaner, one police constable is setting an extraordinary example. He wears a helmet even while riding a bicycle. Constable Bastiram Bishnoi, a driver in the crime branch department in the city, says he adopted this habit 7 years ago after witnessing a tragic accident in which a motorcyclist riding without a helmet lost his life.
ये हेलमेट मैं 2018 से लगा के चल रहा हूँ। उसका उद्देश्य है कि जब 2018 में मोटरसाइकिल पर एक बिना हेलमेट के जा रहा था, तो बिना हेलमेट जाने से बाद में वो किसी कारणवश वो एक्सीडेंट होकर गिर गया। गिरने के बाद उस कोमा में चला गया। कोमा में के बाद पीबीएम हॉस्पिटल में भर्ती होने के बाद उनको दिल्ली मेदांता में ले गए और 4 दिन के बाद में उसकी डेड बॉडी आई। उसके बाद में मैं लगातार साइकिल और मोटरसाइकिल दोनों पर हेलमेट लगा के चलता हूँ। लोगों को यही संदेश देना चाहता हूँ कि मोटरसाइकिल और साइकिल हो, किसी पर हो आप चलते हो और गाड़ी पर चलते हो, सीट बेल्ट का उपयोग करना चाहिए और अपनी सेफ्टी के अनुसार सभी को लगाना चाहिए।
Initially drawing ridicule from fellow residents, Bastiram's dedication has since inspired many in the city.
गवर्नमेंट इतने पैसे लगा रही है कि हेलमेट पहनो, कई संस्थाएं इसके पीछे पड़ी हुई है, लेकिन अवेयरनेस आ नहीं रही है। लेकिन इस आदमी ने इतना हमारे को मोटिवेट किया कि हमारी इच्छा हो गई कि हम तो हेलमेट लगाएंगे और दूसरों को भी मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं कि हेलमेट बहुत जरूरी है।
His initiative has come in for praise even from his seniors in the police department.
और मैं देख रहा हूँ पिछले 1 वर्ष से लगातार वो ऑफिस तक आने के लिए साइकिल का प्रयोग करते हैं और साइकिल पे भी हेलमेट लगाकर चलते हैं। तो ये एक बहुत अच्छी सोच है। वर्तमान में चूंकि सड़क सुरक्षा सप्ताह भी चल रहा है, इसको देखते हुए भी मैं सभी से अपील करता हूँ कि सभी लोग ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा यातायात नियमों का पालन करें, हेलमेट लगाएं, सीट बेल्ट का प्रयोग करें।
According to Constable Bastiram Bishnoi, he has been riding his bicycle donning a helmet not just for his own safety, but also to spread awareness about road safety.
So follow traffic rules, wear a helmet if you are riding a two-wheeler. Still to come up on DD India Newshour, we discuss the deteriorating situation in Bangladesh with a special guest on the show. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour once again. Blasted a madrasa near Dhaka injures 4, including 2 children, as Bangladesh crisis deepens. Women leaders of the National Citizen Party oppose the reported alliance with Jamaat Islami. Russia lashes out at Zelensky ahead of new Trump talks on Ukraine plan, says Ukraine seeking to torpedo talks on US plan. Israel becomes the first country to recognize Somaliland as a sovereign state. So the situation in Bangladesh is continuously deteriorating. There was an attack on a madrasa today. Thankfully, nobody was killed, but 2 children, 1 woman were injured. And these happenings are almost regular happenings. To talk about what and why the situation in Bangladesh is getting worse by the day, I'm joined by Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Thank you, Ambassador Sikri, for being on the show. A mosque or a madrasa near Dhaka attacked. 2 people from the Hindu community lynched in 1 week. Multiple incidents, a music concert barged into, 25 people injured. If this is the situation in Bangladesh, can the Muhammad Yunus interim government or administration or whatever we call it be in a position to hold free and fair elections? Will the same mob on the streets not ransack, say, the polling stations if things don't go their way?
No, absolutely. The situation in Bangladesh has reached a nadir, a low point that perhaps it has not reached in the last 54 years. I think since the liberation war of Bangladesh in 1971, nobody has seen, ever witnessed such consistent violence, such consistent adverse treatment of minorities, and such consistent destruction within the country that has been witnessed over the last 18 months. And there is no attempt even by the Yunus regime to try and control the situation or to try and bring it back to normalcy, because even the police force has been completely demoralized. We know that during the regime change operation itself in July, August last year, a lot of policemen were killed. Out of 600 police stations across Bangladesh, 400 were burnt and their weapons were looted, and policemen, the hundreds were killed. Even now, law and order has not really returned to normalcy. So I think in this deteriorating situation, one can see that there's only one common factor that seems to be there, that Muhammad Yunus is a leader, a regime head who has been imposed without any constitutional reality. He is considered an unconstitutional, illegitimate figure. But behind him is the Jamaat-e-Islami. And he is doing whatever the Jamaat-e-Islami wants him to do. And the Jamaat-e-Islami has unleashed on Bangladesh its own radical version of the society it wants. It wants Sharia law, it wants a caliphate. In fact, there people have been openly saying that if we hadn't killed the policemen, we could not have succeeded in our attempt. So this whole business about what has happened in Bangladesh being spontaneous student uprising has been proved to be false. And now you've seen that you mentioned these two lynchings. I think the condition of the minorities in Bangladesh, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Christians, the Sufis, and Ahmadiyas, has never been so bad. The only last, I remember in 2001, after Begum Khalida Zia got elected, for 3 months there was a kind of a really violence unleashed on the minorities, which was considered at that time the worst since 1971. But this time, for 18 months, it has continued, and we've seen even the most barbaric lynchings. You cannot even call them like relevant to the modern times because they're absolutely barbaric, but done by handing over an individual, Dipu Chandra Das, to the mob. In fact, the factory owner said, if I didn't hand him over to the monk, my factory would be burnt. So he gave up the life of his own worker. And the fellow was beaten, and Dipu Chandra Das was then beaten to death mercilessly. His body dragged to the highway, hung from a tree, and then burnt. And I mean, can you believe? And then another lynching took place 2 days ago, and the Yunus regime is saying, no, that's only he was an extortionist, he was a criminal. And actually, the feedback from the ground is the opposite. That in that village, they're trying to impose some kind of jizya tax for non-Muslims. And probably Amrit Mandal either could not pay or refused to pay, and then he was lynched immediately. So this was a message to the others, please pay up. So, this is a kind of situation. And you have Tariq Rahman returning after 17 years in exile. And he's clearly...
Ambassador, we'll come to Tariq Rahman, but are you then insinuating that Muhammad Yunus is either incapable of handling it, or the Jamaat-e-Islami, which supports him from the back, is telling him not to intervene and let things happen, or let the mob rule the street?
I think it's both, because Muhammad Yunus has shown no skills in administration or controlling the country or even continuing the economy, because all that's happening, all this violence, is accompanied by a complete deterioration of the economic situation. And we know, for example, that Bangladesh had 6.5–7% rate of growth, and it had got to a level where it could go out of the least developed country status. But now, because he does not want the cooperation with India, he's changing rules of economic cooperation, so factories are not getting their supplies of goods from India, they're closing down.
Okay.
So the economy is in shambles. And then
the question, Ambassador, arises that the West, which foisted Professor Yunus on Bangladesh, which was, it was insinuated that the West was behind it. Now, how do they sit easy with him? How do they sit easy with the same Jamaat which represents fundamentalism, radicalization? How do they sit easy with this kind of a mob rule, or the freedom of the religious minorities which the West so tom-toss?
Well, first of all, the West, I know even when I was there, this was many years ago, but even then, they used to always consider the Jamaat as a moderate democratic Islamic party. Okay. They never thought in any way that this was an Islamist party who wants to bring in Sharia law or a caliphate. So this view of Jamaat-e-Islami, I think, is what allowed them to make the Jamaat-e-Islami be the main controller within Bangladesh and to act at the behest of Pakistan, who clearly wants an Islamist regime in Bangladesh and who wants to go back to the pre-1971 days. So it's a combination of two factors here. One is the view of the Jamaat-e-Islami, and second, the fact that all the losing side of 1971, all the parties who were on the losing side, are now thinking that they have won and they can control the situation. But I think they must be extremely embarrassed, or at least they should be embarrassed, to see what has happened because of Jamaat-e-Islami and because of Muhammad Yunus. That there is absolutely mayhem. You saw the musical concert you mentioned yesterday. So there is no willingness to allow any kind of culture, any kind of music and song. And we also saw that the people of Bangladesh, even Muhammad Yunus tried to change the rules that Sheikh Hasina had put in, that every college, university should have a singing teacher, music teacher, and also a PT teacher. When he tried to change it, the students erupted. It didn't come in the media over there because the media is fully controlled. It came, in a few media in India, but not much. The students said, we believe that culture and religion are both very important to us. They're two sides of the same coin. And so that pact between culture and religion, the Muslim identity and the cultural identity, of the Bangladeshi. This combination, if you try to break it asunder, it leads to chaos, and that is what you are seeing.
That is okay. All right, Ambassador. Today 30 women of the NCP, the National Citizen Party, which is basically the students' party, which is also anti-India, which is little leans to the right wing. Today they've written a dissent note saying that reports of an alliance with the Jamaat is just not acceptable to us. They are anti-democratic. We will go back to the pre-71 era. These chinks in the armor then make the political landscape very, very complex, doesn't it?
Yes, actually, this shows. You see, the NCP was formed of the said to be student leaders who were actually all Islami Chhatra Shibir, which is the wing of the.
They were backed by the Jamaat, yeah.
So they made the NCP, and actually all the genuine students really left, and they had already gone back to the university. And the fact that they were no longer with the NCP is shown by the condition that in the students' elections in Dhaka University and Jahangirnagar University, the NCP was nowhere. They were only the Islami Chhatra Shibir. Okay, but even the few students who were left, a few people who were there, they are now saying they are expecting really strong dissent, and if I can say horror, at the thought that NCP is going to join up with Jamaat, which they have announced today. So that means that even proves even more that the so-called spontaneous students uprising was just a sham, and it was just a Jamaat-e-Islami. So these people, these handful of these ladies who would have thought that, wow, it's really going to be a new Bangladesh, it's going to be Gen Z in control, and Gen Z is moderate, and Gen Z is forward-looking, they will give women's rights, they will respect women, they will respect all the religions that are there, the constitutional protection of democracy, but they have been disappointed. And I think that this disappointment, which is so accurately reflected by this letter of the 30 women that you have spoken about, is reflected among all the people. Because now everybody is saying that they are disappointed with Mohammed Yunus, and Aage Bhalo Chilo, it is better before. They've gone back to, regarding that Sheikh Hasina's time was very peaceful and stable. There was, anti-incumbency was definitely there. But there was growth, people got jobs, and so they were happy, And now it's not like that. Every section of society is suffering. And today there was a meeting in Dhaka of the Oikyu Parishad, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Union Council, and very senior civil society people were there. And they all appealed to Yunus and others, saying, please treat the minorities as citizens of Bangladesh. Because the minorities are saying that we want to stay, we are citizens of Bangladesh, we want our rights.
Yeah, minorities' concerns are one thing. I was pointing to the political divisions that are emerging in the new, right-wing parties that have emerged there.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that even civil society, which so far has hesitated to express any support for the minorities, is now coming around. So this has become a political issue now.
Okay.
It's become a big political issue because, and they're saying the global standing of Bangladesh, there's no investment coming in. Nobody wants to come there anymore because, if you can hand over one of your workers to a mob, kill. So I think that, and then Tariq Rahman, as you said, that I would like to mention a word about him also, that he has not said a word about the minorities. He has not said a word. He spoke some generalities, all citizens equal, all citizens should walk ahead, etc. But he has not said a word about minorities. He hasn't taken the name of Dipu Chandra Das or Amrit Mandal or anybody, or the rape, the way the women are being treated, the way the people have been...
To be fair to Tariq, you have to give it to him. He's, waded into very troubled water. So he's traversing a very difficult political terrain. So probably he's considering that, given the mood in the nation right now.
But the point is that if he was aware of the mood of the nation, he would try to correct it by talking about these things, because actually the mood of the nation is very poor because nobody is talking about the real issues. You're only talking about caliphate, and you're only talking about, Islamism, and you're condemning anybody who's not, you're calling them kafirs, you're charging jizya tax. So this is not the image of Bangladesh that anybody in Bangladesh wants. Now, Tariq Rahman has been in London for 17 years. Admittedly, he's out of touch, but surely he would have known what had happened. And he would have known, and in fact, look at killing of Usman Hadi is now blamed on Mohammed Yunus. They're asking him to resign because the family of Usman Hadi says, how come, that even the forensic report shows that the so-called killer who came alongside and shot at him, it could have been done by that person.
All right. So that makes things very complex. We'll have to see how it pans out in the coming days. Ambassador Veena Sikri, that's all the time we have for on the show. Thank you very much for being on the show. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, elephants participate in the Chitwan Elephant Festival in Nepal, showing their football skills. Bollywood superstar Salman Khan celebrates his 60th birthday in Panvel in Mumbai.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Bollywood superstar Salman Khan turned 60 on Saturday. He celebrated his birthday with close friends and family at his Panvel farmhouse, while fans and celebrities across the country poured in their love and warm wishes for the superstar.
Bollywood superstar Salman Khan celebrated his 60th birthday surrounded by his close friends and family at his farmhouse in Panvel. Among those who attended the celebrations last evening at Arpita Farms were actors Sanjay Dutt, Sangeeta Bijlani, Jackie Bhagnani, Rakulpreet Singh, Manish Malhotra, Huma Qureshi and cricketer MS Dhoni. Later, Salman stepped out for a brief moment to cut a cake with the paparazzi amidst heavy security around him. Last evening, the Bandra Worli ceiling in Mumbai was lit up with a special birthday tribute for Salman, which featured his photo and a message that read, "Happy Birthday Bhai." Salman, who made his acting debut in 1988 with Biwi Ho To Aisi, has been working in the industry for more than 3 decades. Over the years, Salman has acted across various genres from comedies, action, family dramas to romance and intense movies and has a massive fan following.
I think he has created something that only few people in this world can proudly say they've created. So I wish him to leave to keep even more of his essence in the film industry and into the world, because he does amazing work with being human that not so many people know about.
Fans from across the country also poured in their love for their superstar on the occasion.
भारत की जनता उनको बहुत प्रेम करती है और वो एक ऐसे शख्स है जो सभी भारतीयों से प्यार करते हैं और सभी भारतीयों के विषय में भारत पे उनको गर्व है। इसलिए मैं उनको जन्मदिन के इस मौके के ऊपर मैं उनको यही बधाई दूंगा कि भगवान उनको बहुत उम्र दे और बहुत खुश रखे और ऐसी भारतीय पूरे संसार के अंदर में उनका नाम होते रहे और भारत का नाम वो आगे बढ़ाते रहे।
Salman will next feature in Battle of Galwan, which is based on one of India's most brutal battles fought without a single bullet being fired. The movie is directed by Apurva Lakhia of Shootout at Lokhandwala fame and is set for release in 2026.
Gujarat's dairy sector is transforming rural livelihoods. Government support and strong cooperatives are improving milk quality and income. Here's a report on how dairy is driving growth across the state.
With milk cans in their hands, the sparkle in their eyes and smiles on their faces tell a story of pride and progress. In Gujarat, the dairy sector has transformed the lives of these young people. The cooperative system, combined with Gujarat government's consistent efforts, is delivering results. The state's long-term vision, strong support and scientific approach have addressed the challenges faced by cattle rearers. This is why Gujarat is emerging rapidly as a leading state in milk production.
એટલે બધી યોજનાઓ અમારા સુધી પહોંચે છે. ટાઈમે રસીકરણ થાય છે, વેટેરીનરીના ડૉક્ટરો આવીને ચેક કરે છે, બધી રીતે લાભ મળે છે.
Since 1962, Gujarat's Animal Husbandry Department has been continuously providing animal health services in rural areas. The state has ensured the availability of one government veterinary hospital for every 10 villages. Currently, more than 2,200 veterinary doctors are serving in over 18,000 villages. This initiative by the Gujarat government has led to a marked improvement in milk quality.
એ ગુણવત્તા સુધરે તે માટે ગુજરાત સરકાર અને કેન્દ્ર સરકાર સતત મદદરૂપ અને પ્રયત્નશીલ રહેલ છે અને તેમના મળેલા માર્ગદર્શનથી આજે આપણે ગામે ગામ એક વ્યવસ્થિત સંપાદનનું એક નેટવર્ક ઊભું કરી શક્યા છીએ.
To ensure the purity and safety of milk and milk products, Amul strictly adheres to FSSAI standards. In the export sector, the government institutions such as APIDA provide valuable guidance and support. Powered by the hard work of cattle rearers, strong government support and modern technology, Amul exports its products to nearly 50 countries worldwide. This is why milk production has become a source of prosperity in Gujarat. Under the leadership of Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, every drop of milk is helping transform lives and shape brighter futures.
You're watching the India Newshour. Time now for some sports news. Let's talk about the Ashes. England held their nerve in a low-scoring thriller to beat Australia by 4 wickets in the 4th Ashes Test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground to claim a historic win. England won their first Test on Australian soil in 15 years, restoring their pride with a gutsy victory in a clash that was over inside 2 days. England head into the last Test 3-1 down, but their effort has helped them avoid a series whitewash. Take a look at this report.
England finally ended their long wait for a Test win in Australia, registering a memorable 4-wicket victory over Australia in the 4th Ashes Test at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. For the first time in 19 matches and nearly 15 years, England tasted success down under, chasing a modest target of 175 on a challenging surface to avoid a series whitewash. Ben Stokes' side got the job done inside 2 days, making it the only 5th instance in Test history where a series has witnessed multiple 2-day finishes.
Awesome feeling. Been on a couple tours before where it's not gone too well. So to end up on the right side of the result after a long period of time is a pretty special feeling. That wicket was very tricky, especially with a newer ball, and the top order from both teams were sort of struggling to find a way to consistently be able to, score runs or feel any fluency. We went with an idea of sending someone who's got talent with the bat and a very good eye for hitting the ball, that even if he gets a quick 20, quick 30, that's massive in a very small run chase.
Australia, who had already retained the Ashes with a win in the 3rd Test, once again found themselves in a low-scoring contest. After taking a slender 46-run lead on a dramatic opening day that saw 20 wickets fall, England were bowled out for 110 in reply to Australia's 152. England bowlers then ripped through the Australian batting for a second time, dismissing the hosts for just 132. Brydon Cast led the charge with 4 wickets, while Josh Tongue and captain Ben Stokes provided crucial support as Australia lost their final 4 wickets for just 34 runs. Chasing a target of 175, England openers Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett led the foundation with a brisk 51-run stand. After a brief wobble, young Jacob Bethel impressed once again, scoring a fluent 40 before Harry Brook and Jamie Smith calmly guided England to home. This victory snapped England's winless streak in Australia and marked their first Test victory on Australian soil since the Sydney Test in 2011.
Tough loss in the end. I thought England came out today and played some really good cricket. They got the ball in the right areas and dismissed us.
Australia continue to lead the 5-match series 3-1, having won opening 2 tests in Perth and Brisbane before sealing the Ashes in Adelaide. The 5th and final test will be played in Sydney from January 4, with England aiming to finish the tour on a high and Australia looking to close out the series emphatically. Sports Desk, DD India.
Okay, some elephant soccer news now. Elephants entertain tourists and residents at the annual Chitwan Elephant Festival in Nepal's Sauraha, showing off their football skills on the field. Painted with colorful designs, the elephants took part in a penalty shootout following cues from their handlers. The three-day festival includes the elephant football match as well as a beauty contest and ends on the final day with worship rituals for the animals. A dedicated team of handlers cares for the elephants at a training center in Sauraha, which attracts large number of visitors. The center houses dozens of elephants and calves and is one of Nepal's biggest elephant training facility. That's it then in this edition of DD India Newshour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code you see to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh. From my entire team here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India. Bye-bye.